Welcome to the session titled How It Works, Email Deliverability. I send a lot of emails, both marketing and professional business emails. And I'm always thinking about how does email work and what happens in between when you send an email and when it's received by the recipient. The thing is, I've been in email marketing for over 10 years and I think about these things all the time. Most people, they might not think about that, or most marketers probably just say, I need to get an email out the door, and they're going to go ahead and send it. Today, we're going to talk about the journey of an email and what happens before you hit send, when you hit send, and what happens when an email is received on the recipient side, if it's received at all. My name is Hank Hoffmeyer. I am the digital marketing infotainer. I like to make marketing fun and successful. I'm also a senior manager of client solutions at J2. Thank you for joining me today. Let's discuss what we're going to talk about and a couple of things that I want to show you today. The first one is going to be what happens before you hit send. And that's going to be some technical items that you need to set up on your end or in your platform so that you can ensure your emails are delivered to the inbox. And also, we're going to talk about reputation, not your personal reputation, but a reputation that's tied to your email marketing efforts. And then I have some other miscellaneous items that we can discuss when it comes to before you hit the send button. Then after you send, we're going to look at some coded language that happens between the servers. We're going to look at email filters, and then the most important item is looking at your metrics and what you should be looking at and analyzing. Also, I want to go over some tips and tools, maybe some best practices and some ideas that are going to help you make sure that your email campaigns are the best that they can be. Email deliverability happens even before you hit send. In other words, your ability to get into the inbox rather than the spam folder happens earlier than you think. You need to think about the whole process of developing your email campaign so that you can ensure, number one, that people engage with it, and number two, that it shows up in the inbox. Let's talk about some technical items that you need to make sure that you have set up. You realistically don't need to have these items, but it helps you a lot if you do have them set up. The first one is called SPF, and that's called Sender Policy Framework. This is a bit of code that sits on your domain or on your hosting server that says your email service provider has permission to send email on your behalf. It stops spoofing. When you send an email, the server will say, this is sent by an email service provider, not by XYZ brand. Do they have permission? They'll look for this little bit of information on your domain, on your server, to make sure that that permission is set. It's easy to set up, and you can find out how to do that very easily. Next, we have DKIM, which is Domain Keys Identified Mail. This basically means it's an encrypted email. In other words, it has not been altered or changed in transmission. When you send the email and it was received by the recipient server, nothing has changed or has been altered to that email. Again, that's another thing that you set up both in the platform, your email platform, and your domain. Those two, I say, are pretty critical and you need to do. And another one would be called DMARC, and this is Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. This basically says, hey, if SPF and DKIM are not set up correctly, what do we do with this email? Do we reject it? Do we put it in quarantine? Or do we accept it? This is kind of, in a way, something that you should do, but you don't necessarily have to do. I recommend it because the more security you have, the more the recipient servers are going to trust your emails. This is something that's up and coming. It's called BIMI, Brand Indicators for Message Identification. And it's also a cool way to brand yourself. All three things I just mentioned, SPF, DMARC, and DKIM, need to be set up in order to qualify for BIMI. One thing to note is Yahoo is the only one that's using this right now. But if you get it set up, your emails will look different when you send them. In other words, in Yahoo or maybe in Gmail in the future, your logo will actually show up. And what you need to do is have this all set up on your server, and once it's set up, it'll pull in automatically. And again, it's another form of verification, and Yahoo and Gmail and whoever adopts this down the road will trust you more and accept more of your emails in the inbox. So keep that in mind and learn more about BIMI as it rolls out. When we look at authentication, here's kind of what happened when you send an email. You're going to send an email out and it's going to have the SPF and DKIM, hopefully. And a recipient server is going to look at that and say, hey, is this signed? Is it have the DKIM? Yes, okay, let's let it pass and go through. But if it doesn't, if those are not set up, the server may reject that email and just delete it, remove it. It'll never see the light of day. Or it may get turned back to you as like a bounce, and you'll get a bounce code saying what happened to that email and that it was rejected. But if it was accepted, it's going to look at the DMARC and say, hey, is there any other further checks that we need to do here? Or maybe the recipient server still accepted it, and all of a sudden now DMARC is telling this server what to do with that email. And if everything passes and everything's all great and dandy, it's going to hit the inbox. Otherwise, it may go to the spam folder if a lot of these are not met and it passed through the server and did not get dropped. So that's kind of just an overview of how things happen when the send button is hit when you send an email. Now, I mentioned reputation. It's important to note that there is a reputation tied to every send that you have, and there's two components to this. The first one is your IP reputation, and this would be through your email service provider. The IP address that they send your email out through has a domain or an IP reputation, kind of like a grade, and it means that, hey, this IP sends good emails, it sends questionable emails or bad emails. And depending on that reputation, your email may or may not be accepted. On the other side is your domain reputation, which has more weight. In other words, your domain has more reputation weight than the IP reputations. Keep that in mind. Every time you send an email, your domain is being graded so that they know you're sending good emails or bad emails. So there's the marriage of the IP and the domain that go together, but the domain has a lot more weight. Therefore, it's not always the service provider you use, it's really your domain that is carrying most of the weight. I like to think of it as a credit score. Every time you send an email, it's being graded. In other words, you send an email and it's opened, it's clicked on and forwarded, printed, whatever you want to call it. As long as it's measurable and it's a good interaction, your credit score goes up. If your email bounces, if a lot of people are marking as spam, if they're deleting it, ignoring it, your score goes down. So what you want to do is have more good things happen to your email rather than the negative things that happen to an email. And believe it or not, simply ignoring your email actually does hurt you, because you might have more people that are not opening your email or ignoring it than you do people that are actually engaging with it, which is negative. Keep that in mind, folks, and list hygiene is a great way to combat that. We'll talk more about that later. Let's talk about some other factors that come to play when you are going to hit the send button or before you hit send. One is text to image ratio. Make sure to have a 60-40 split. In other words, 60% text, 40% images. This way, the servers do not mark you as spam. What happened years ago is when these servers looked at the text and email, saw spammy words or spammy content, they would flag the email. What happened is marketers or spammers got really savvy and they started just putting text over images, which the AI algorithms could not read. That's why we have text image ratio. A little history there for you. Email size does matter here. In other words, if you take your HTML or all your code from your email and you put it in a text file and look at the size of that, the properties of that, if it's over 102 kilobits, it will be cut off in the inbox and it will be too large. Number one, it may be considered spam just because it's so lengthy. And number two, it's cutting off the unsubscribe button at the bottom of your email, which you need and want to have in there because you'd rather have people unsubscribe than hit the spam button. Then we have spam keywords like, free, all these spammy type of keywords, which are not as relevant as they've been in the past. In other words, you can have free, you can have save, you can have certain keywords in your subject line and in your content, but just don't keep using them. Don't make them all caps all the time. Stay away from spammy keywords. Also, make sure that your images have alt text. This is what would display if somebody's not showing images. It helps the server understand what that image is and what content's there. And also, again, don't use spammy words for your alt text. to get people to buy or try to coerce them to do something that is nefarious in some way. Now let's move into what happens after you hit send. Once you hit that send button, your email's getting ready to go out the door. What happens? What I like to do is correlate it to what happens when you send a letter or a package. What you're going to do is write a letter, put something in a package, put postage on it, and then just give it to your postal carrier or bring it to the post office, and it just magically appears at somebody's door, right? Just probably teleports and goes there. We all know that's not true. That's why I like to talk about this. Let's talk about mail. And I found this cool graphic online, but there was like 32 steps, and I don't want to bore you to death, so I kind of pared it down a little bit here. The first thing is you're going to write a letter, or you're going to create a package and put something in it, right, to get ready to have it sent out. And then you're going to either bring it to the post office, give it to your postal carrier, or whatever. Then what happens is it gets picked up, if it's in your mailbox, and brought to the post office / distribution center. And what's really cool is they have these machines that check for biohazards, and they actually look for the zip code. Where is this going? So these machines scan these packages, say, is there bad things in here? And then where is it going? And that's the zip code. And then they start sorting your email. Then what they'll do is they'll load it up. If it's over 200 miles away, they're going to load it up on a plane and ship it to another distribution center that's closer to where your package or letter is going. And then what happens is they load it on a truck and they deliver it to that quote unquote last mile, or under 200 miles, to that distribution center, local post office. Then what happens is it gets ready to go out the next day to your mailbox or your doorstep, and then it's finally delivered. That's a perfect analogy to email marketing, because similar things are happening. You're writing an email, you're hitting send or sending it out to the carrier, and it's being scanned for nefarious items or for things that are bad before it hits the inbox. It's being sorted and sent to specific people, right? Especially if you're using segmentation. And then what happens is it either shows up in the inbox, or it can be dropped on the floor. Like maybe a package gets dropped and lost, or maybe gets tore up and it never gets delivered. Same thing here is your email may be dropped on the floor, not delivered, and put into the spam folder, or what we're all hoping happens, it gets delivered to the inbox. What happens when you send an email is the sending server and the recipient server are talking to each other. Hey, what's going on? It's kind of like, hey, I have an email and I need you to receive it. And I have a cool graphic coming up for that. But what happens is there are codes. So 250 means all good. Hey, I have an email for you to this email address. Does this email address and does this domain exist? Yes, all good. 250, thank you. 400 is a temporary issue. Hey, the recipient's email box is full right now. They have to delete some emails before they can accept. Or it can be just simply it was blocked for spam. And then we have 500, which is a permanent failure. In other words, this domain does not exist and this email address does not exist. And one of those, it would be a 500 error, meaning it's a hard bounce, meaning it's permanent. It's never going to change. This email address is never going to exist. And most email service providers will remove that email address from your account, which is really cool. Here's just a sample of some items when it comes to getting information back from a server. And what we're looking at here, some 500 codes and a couple 400 codes. And what happens is the server can give you a response and tell you what is wrong with that email. Hey, you have a bad sender score. Hey, this is considered spam. Email inbox is full. What's really cool is the recipient server can customize the reply. I've seen, hey, silly, there's no one here with that email address. And keep in mind, the response is only as good as how it was coded on the server side. What happens is you send an email, and what you're doing is knocking on the door of the recipient server saying, hello. And the recipient server says, hello, I'm here. Mail coming from sender. I have somebody sending an email. Recipient server says, okay. And then basically saying, this is where I want to send it to. Okay. And then here's the date. Okay. And then I'm done. And it is received. That's if everything goes well and there's no negative codes like 400 or 500. That's kind of how the servers talk to each other. But then there's spam filters. The recipient server accepted the email, but now it's going to say, hey, you know what? Let's check the sender's reputation, IP reputation, The domain reputation. Is it good? Do we want to block it? No? Okay, well, okay, it's good. Let's accept it. Now let's look at the content. Let's look at the text to image ratio. Let's look for spam words and just what people have done with it in the past, especially with Gmail. They're looking at what each recipient has done with emails like that or your emails in the past. And we'll determine, is this going to go to the spam folder or the inbox? And everything we're talking about today plays a factor here. What we talked about earlier and what we're going to talk about in a few moments. What you want to do is measure your results. That's one way to look at things, is to create a benchmark. How are you doing right now? And where do you want to be in the future? What you want to do is make sure that at least you're meeting email averages here. Like with open rates, you want to be around 20%. With clicks, you want to be about 5%. Your unsubscribe rate about 0.5 or 5 per thousand. And then unsubscribe rate less than 1%. Keep those in mind because that's where you should be. And if you're not there, don't worry, you can get there. And if you're above that, great, pat yourself on the shoulders. And it's important to make sure that you are analyzing your results all the time. Align your KPIs with your email goals. In other words, hey, I have a goal of making more money, making more revenue from email marketing, and my KPI is I want to increase my open rate by 5%. Make sure you're writing these down and you're holding yourself accountable. Then you want to make sure you're analyzing all your results, not just your open rate, because your bounce rate, your unsubscribe rate, your click rates all matter. Because maybe one email you're just trying to inform people about something and having them read it, and another one maybe you're looking to have somebody click through and make a purchase, and you can also measure your conversions. Make sure you're looking at all your data and not just one data point. And then make sure you're tracking your trends over time. Like I mentioned, you need to have that baseline and then go from there. Are you improving? Are things starting to slide a little bit and you need to make some changes? Those are things that you want to look at. And you might be saying, Hank, you showed me the average and I'm above that or I'm below that, but I'm in a different industry, a weird industry, and I don't know what my numbers should be. So here's a little gift for you. Here's a couple of different industries that I pulled from smartinsights.com. Feel free to go to smartinsights.com and just search in their search bar for, email averages or email metric averages. And this will come up. It'll be the most recent. You'll be able to find out, hey, this is my industry. This is where I need to be on my rates. And that's where you can compare yourself to this benchmark. Let's move on to tips and tools, my favorite part. The inbox game is based on popularity. I don't know about you, but when you're in school, when you are out and about at a party, you want to be popular. You want to be known. You want people to say your name. Hey, Hank, how you doing? And it makes me feel good because people know me and maybe I'm a little bit popular in that room. Same thing with email is you want your emails to be popular in the inbox so that people look for them and engage with them. And more importantly, they convert. That's what we're all using email marketing for, right? We need to play the inbox popularity game. What you really need to do is start with your subscriber acquisition. What are you doing when you acquire subscribers? Or it's like walking into a room and meeting someone. Do you just go over and just say, hey, I want to sell you something. Here's my card. Here's my pricing. Do you want to buy it right now? It's probably not going to happen. And what you want to do is build a relationship with people over time. That's what you want to do. Number one is set permission, or get permission when somebody goes to your website or you meet them in person, or maybe I'm doing a talk and I'm going to ask you to sign up for my newsletter. I'm going to ask for permission. Hey, I'd love for you to sign up for my emails. Here's what you can expect. Hopefully you'll join us. Rather than buying a list, which you should never do for numerous reasons, maybe you can buy a list for $100 and send it out and make some money off that email. But what you're doing is you're hurting your IP and your domain reputation. Once you start sending those emails, majority of those are going to bounce. Many of them are going to mark the message as spam because they're not going to know who you are because they didn't give you permission to email them. And that's going to hurt your reputation. That is the biggest reason why you should not use a purchase list or send emails to people that don't want them. Make sure you're sending emails to people that want to receive your emails. You will be rewarded. More of your emails will go to the inbox. People will look for your emails. Hopefully you have great content and they're going to convert. Make sure you set that permission and use permission-based email marketing. Another thing is to set expectations. What you want to do is make sure that you are telling folks what you're going to send them and live up to your promise. you can expect an email from us once a month, and we're going to have monthly specials in there. We're going to have information about new products and services and how we can help you. Something like that would be simple enough. Did you know that 95% of visitors that come to your website or a physical location will only visit you once? Amazing. So what you want to do is make sure that you are collecting email addresses so that you can start a relationship with them. And then also here's an example where somebody typed in their email address wrong and it would end up bouncing. What you can do is use a service like Kickbox, and what they can do is they can validate your emails either on the fly or after the fact to make sure that you're weeding out bad email addresses, which is a cool thing to do. What you want to do is make sure you have a sign-up form on your website or have the ability to add people to your email platform so you can start a relationship with them right away. And the first thing you want to do is send a welcome email to set those expectations that I just mentioned. Caribou Coffee is offering a free drink, and then they're saying, hey, here's what you can expect from us. You're going to get a free drink on your birthday. We're going to give you exclusive offers and let you know when we launch new products. I think that's a pretty cool welcome email. And then we have Michael's, and what they're doing is giving a 20% off coupon for signing up, and they're also setting expectations in this email. And I wanted to add a B2B example, which is Litmus. They provide email testing tools. They're just saying, woohoo, you're in, welcome. And here's a guide for you right away. What they're doing is rewarding you for signing up and just saying, welcome to our family. Here's what you can expect from us. Make sure to send a welcome email right away because that starts the relationship off right. There's nothing worse than getting an email address and waiting a week or a month to send the first email. People might not remember who you are. And what does that hurt, folks? That hurts your reputation. Next thing is, once you start sending those emails, even your welcome email, you got to look at your subject lines. You want to send people an email and you want to get them to open. The first thing they see is the subject line. Go ahead and start using personalization. For me, on a form, you only need two pieces of information. The first one is the email address. That's the most important. Then maybe a first name. People are willing to give you a first name because they know that you're probably going to use that to address them. And what you can do is in the subject line, use personalization and also use the first name in the body of the email, something I like to do. Not even just in the top where it says, Dear Hank, comma, it could be somewhere in the bottom. Hey, we remember, Hank, comma, that you like cool sneakers or something like that. Make sure you're using personalization in your subject line, also your body of your email. Use action words in your subject line. Act now, limited time, save now. It kind of psychologically makes people feel like they're going to have FOMO or fear of missing out, and they need to open that email because they need to act now or use some other kind of action. Also, make sure that your subject line is about 6 to 10 words in length, because what will happen is it may get cut off in the inbox and people might not know what you're talking about. And then make sure you're using split testing. Take one version of your email, send it to 10% of one of your lists. Another version, send it to another 10% of one of your lists with two different subject lines. Let it sit there for about 24 to 48 hours. Come back and say, hey, this one got 5% more opens. I'm going to send that to the remaining 80% of my list. It's like getting free opens in every email. By testing two variations, you can send the best performing email to the rest of your list. You're welcome. Pro tip. Make sure you're using pre-header text and using it effectively. To me, pre-header is like what Robin is to Batman and make up the dynamic duo. You have your subject line, 6 to 10 words in length, but maybe you had more to say. That's what the pre-header is. And in my example here, the subject line is in bold, and then not bold would be your pre-header. I see a lot of marketers use, cannot view this email, click here to view online. That is a waste of valuable real estate. It should say something like, act now, Hank, we have a huge sale. Fancy sneakers in all colors would be the pre-header. That would probably get my attention. And if you've ever seen me speak on stage, you know I do wear funky sneakers. It's kind of my mantra. I like having that as a point of conversation, because then somebody could find me later on. Hey, who was that guy that spoke about email marketing? He had those sneakers with the floral design on it. Then you'll see me walking around and maybe you'll engage with me. And it has worked in the past. Also, we should talk about segmentation. This is where you're going to take your email list and you're going to filter it down. Maybe you collect where people live, what city they live in, and you want to target people because you have an event in that city. That's an example of segmentation or filtering of your lists. And according to the DMA, there is a certain increase in revenue that you can obtain by making sure you're targeting your subscriber base effectively or using segmentation. What I want to do is I want you to think about that number, and I left it blank here on purpose. Right now, think about it. What percent increase do you think there is when you use segmentation in your email campaigns? You're probably thinking about a double-digit number, right? Try triple digits. And I'm just going to pause here for 2 seconds. Triple-digit number. Now, I wish I can record your faces because you actually receive a 760% increase in revenue by making sure you send the right message to the right person by using segmentation. What is segmentation? It's a filter view of your email subscriber base or list. I think that there's 4 pillars of segmentation. The first one's going to be geographic. Where are they? The next one is going to be demographics. A little bit more of who are they, their age, gender, income, education, occupation. And then my favorite is psychographic, and that's their lifestyle, values, their concerns, personality, attitudes, and what I call AIO, activities, interests, and opinions. This is rich data. And you might ask me on these 3, how do I get this data? Because you said I should probably only be getting an email address and a first name. Well, yeah, that's true. But you can send a survey to folks later on or ask them to update their information in the preference center of your email campaign provider and tell them that you want to use this data to send them better emails, give them more value, give them more discounts, whatever it is, or send a survey. Most people will fill out a survey if they know what's in it for them, or maybe you want to maybe offer an incentive to fill it out or an entry to win a gift card or something. But people generally will give you more information if you ask for it. But if my sign-up form asks for 20 pieces of information, including last year's tax amount, my favorite color, my address, where I have my auto insurance, etc., I'm not going to fill that out. It's called friction. It basically means, hey, I simply want to get a coupon from this company, and they're asking for 20 bits of information. Not good, folks. Start out with the email address, first name. You can always get information later. And last pillar is going to be behavioral. It's what they're doing and not doing. Are they opening? Are they clicking? Are they visiting my website? What kind of signals are they giving me? Are they a VIP? Maybe if somebody's buying from me a lot, I want to treat them just as much as somebody that doesn't, because what we're doing is chasing people that don't convert by giving them rich incentives. But what are we doing to people that actually continue to do work with us or buy from us? Are we rewarding them in any way? And with automation, you can go through and say, hey, if somebody didn't open an email, I'm going to resend that email in 3 days with a different subject line. I've had clients use that in the past, and it works wonderfully for them. Also, take a step back and look at your personas. Who are you marketing to? In other words, maybe you have one type of customer, or maybe you have 20 types of customers. But here we have 2 examples. We have Sally. She's a female. She likes outdoors and she cooks at home, and she lives on the West Coast. Then we have Sam. He's a male. He likes technology, eats out often, and lives on the East Coast. Would I want to send Sally an email at 9 a.m. Eastern time about the latest Apple laptop that has the coolest processor? Maybe not. She might not convert unless she's looking for a gift, but Sam would probably engage with that email more. Take a look at your customer base, develop these personas, develop those segments so you can send better emails to your personas/segments. Keep in mind, folks, today's consumer is a lot different than they've been in the past. They're more empowered. They are mobile. They have a mobile device, and they can look at information at any time, anywhere they are. They're hands-on. They're going to know where to go to get information about getting best prices, or maybe it's reliability or support that they're looking for. They know how to get this information. They might ask friends and family, their social networks, hey, I need to buy a new vacuum. Where should I buy it? What brand should I buy? They're doing a lot of this research with tablets, mobile devices, and their computers, and they're also using their in-person networks. They're very vocal. Today's empowered consumer is going to talk about you if they had a great experience, and also talk about you if you had a bad experience, and they're going to share that on Yelp, Facebook, and other social media platforms, give you a review on Google. You want to make sure that you are sending great emails that mean a lot to your subscriber base that offer value. they're going to be committed. They'll do business with you and give you their money as long as they're going to get something in return, whether it's savings, support, customer service, whatever they're looking for. If there is that win-win on both sides, you'll get that conversion. People can obtain information, they can make purchases anywhere in the world. I can buy something for a family member that might live in Europe, in UK or something, and ship it to them, or vice versa. Or maybe you live in the UK and you want to ship something to someone in the US, or maybe you're going to plan a vacation and you want to look up restaurant reviews. You could do all of that. And this one's kind of newer. We're all concerned. With the pandemic going on, we're all concerned about keeping our job, getting a job, spending our money, what's going to happen to the economy. We just don't know. We're very concerned, and today's consumer is going to think about what's happening, and they're going to be a little bit more chintzy with their dollar and what they spend on. And that's where email marketing comes in. It allows you to start that relationship, build a relationship, and then go ahead and convert to a sale, because as far as a sales cycle, you have to touch someone at least 8 times before they buy, which is the average right now. And email marketing allows you to do that. And marketing automation is probably the best tool to help you. In short, marketing automation convinces the right people to need what you provide at the right time. In other words, when you send that email, not everyone's ready to buy right then and there, unless it's the deal of a century. But what you want to do is keep sending emails to remind them that you're there, how you can help, how you're providing value, maybe how they can save, or just be better off with your product and services. With automation, you can nurture people with a sequence of emails. One of the easiest things you can do is set up a welcome series, and that can just welcome people to the fold. 3 days later, send another email. 5 days later, another, and 7, even another one. And you can personalize the emails to increase engagement. We already talked about that. Make sure you're doing that, and even with automation. The most important thing with automation, it helps you save time. It allows you to cut out all the manual work you're doing and helps you in real time keep in touch with your subscriber base. Let's talk about some nurture ideas. You can send a welcome email nurture series, like I said, or a nurture series maybe for a new product or service that you're launching. It could be a sequence of emails, or you could trigger it based on something like I mentioned earlier. If somebody doesn't open an email 3 days later, send it again. Or if somebody makes a purchase or has a shopping cart abandonment, you can use those triggers to send emails. Let's just look at a simple example. I obtain an email address on my website and I add them to my audience, my list, my email service provider platform. On day 0 or right away, I'm going to send them that welcome email. Hey, welcome. Here's what you can expect. We love that you're on board. Here's a coupon. And then maybe 2 days later, I'm going to send an email with an emotional appeal. Please buy for me. No. The emotional appeal is going to be, hey, here's what we stand for. Here's what we believe in. We hope you'll buy from us. Kind of the warm fuzzies. Give them the great feeling information about your organization to develop a relationship with them. Then maybe you're going to send an email 5 days later, and that's going to be a differentiator email. This is what makes us different from our competitor, what makes us better, more logical choice. And again, you can add some emotion in there. And here's what we're doing in the community. Those types of bits of information are actually really cool and help further building that relationship. And then finally, 7 days later, for this simple example, you might offer an incentive. Hey, we've been sending you these emails and we've been building a relationship with you, but now we'd love to give you an offer of 20% off or something like that. And this is just a simple example of a nurturing sequence that you can use with automation. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but list hygiene is one of the most important things you can do with email marketing. List hygiene means that you're going to clean your list of people that don't want your emails anymore. You should take a look at people that have been on your email list for 6 months or a year, that haven't opened in 6 months or a year. Maybe the example here is going to be, hey, I'm going to look at everybody who's been in my account for a year and I've been sending emails to. They haven't opened in a year. If they haven't opened in a year, I'm probably not going to get them to open in the future. And what I could do is send them a series of emails to see if they want to come back into the fold. And maybe that looks like, are we breaking up? Question mark. First email. I don't know about you, but if somebody's breaking up with me, I'm going to click on that, open it, and find out why. In that email, you can say, we notice you haven't been opening our emails. We want to make sure that you want to stay on our list. Here's a little bit of a incentive to stay with us. Discount, whatever you want to. Then you're going to wait maybe a week or 2 weeks, and you'll send a second email to people who did not open the first one. And that one's going to be, here are the divorce papers. We mean it. We don't want to send you emails if you don't want them. Please let us know if you want to stay on board or not, or you can just measure it based on the open. Then you wait another week or two, and then it's final, it's over, we're going to miss you. And that's going to say we're going to remove you after 48 hours, whatever you want, but then make sure to take action on that afterwards and actually remove them. A lot of marketers are afraid to remove people because they feel like they're going to buy from them in the future. But the beauty is you can remove them, but then you can always add them back later, or they can add themselves back later. What's great about removing them is, you remember our conversation around your reputation. What you want to do is make sure that your score, that your reputation remains high, because if you have 100 Gmail subscribers and 60-70% of them are not opening, Gmail's going to put more of your emails in a spam folder, and that's not what you want. If you clean your list and all of a sudden 60-70% of them are actually engaged with you, they're going to send more of your emails to the inbox. And a lot of folks will say, Hank, I don't have a great reputation, but a lot of people still open my emails. Well, those are people that are highly engaged and they have been opening. They're going to continue to get those emails. But what's going to happen is you're going to suffer because people that are added to your list or new subscribers may not ever see your emails. List hygiene is critical. Make sure you're doing it often, 3, 6, 12 months, depending on your frequency of sending. And I mentioned email list verification. Make sure you're using a service provider like Kickbox to either do checks in real time, or, hey, I have this list I haven't sent to in a while and I want to send to them. Let me check beforehand how many of those email addresses are valid and how many are not. It saves you the headache of damaging your IP and domain reputation, so that you can make sure that most of your emails get into the inbox. I got a couple of Mythbusters for you guys, and I hope you're ready. I didn't know if you were aware it's going to kind of be like an interactive session or kind of like a quiz, but hey, are these true or false? Text-only emails help increase deliverability. True or false? Come on, say it out loud. I know you look a little strange, but I just want to hear it. All right. It's actually both in a way, but mostly false. If you send a text-only email every now and then, Gmail may give you a slight bump in the inbox. But if you overuse that, what's going to happen is they're going to catch on, and then your sender and domain reputation is going to go flat again. It's going to go back to where it was. Only use text-only emails if it warrants using them. For some reason, it's a simple email from like the president or whatever. You're not going to use any graphics or images, and you just want people to read a simple message. That's the reason you use text-only. Don't use it to game the system. The promotions tab, you should always try to get your email in the promotions tab, because that's where everybody lives. True or false, folks? It is actually false. Greg Cutts, who actually worked for Gmail a while back, now he works for the government, he said, do not game the system. He pretty much said that at a conference. He said, do not game the system. In other words, if you try to do something to your emails to force it to go to the promotion tab through their algorithms, it will probably hurt you more than help you. Some people don't even have tabs. I don't in a couple of my Gmail accounts. Some people will go to the promotions tab when they want to buy, and that's the right mindset to have, and see your email. I'm ready to buy something or get a great deal. I'm going to go into promotions tab. Updates are for shipping notifications, etc. And primary tab is where you want to make sure that your emails that are most important go. And actually, this true or false should be the primary tab. In other words, should you game the system to make sure that your emails go into the primary tab versus the promotion tab? You want to be where your emails are sent, except for the spam folder. You have some control over that, and hopefully you'll get there. So in other words, if your emails are going to the promotion tab, should you game the system to get into the primary tab? The answer is no, or the myth is false. Use of deceptive or misleading subject lines can help you get more engagement and more exposure with your email subscribers. True or false? I think everybody probably said false before I even finished my statement. Now, I'm not going to ask you to say it out loud or anything, but you do not use deceptive subject lines, because if you do, and especially if you do it over time, people are going to read into that and they're going to stop reading your emails. They're going to delete them. They're going to unsubscribe, and probably worse yet, mark it as spam. To recap, let's talk about what you need to do beforehand. So what you want to do is make sure you're checking your technical items, your authentication, your IP domain, your domain reputation, and as well as any content that can raise red flags to the algorithms. Afterwards, make sure that you are measuring and developing KPIs so that you know where you are and where you're going. And just make sure that you are regularly looking at what's going on and seeing how you can improve. All the time, follow best practices. Create those goals and measure the results. I know I'm saying that repeatedly because you should always be doing this. And just think about managing your reputation. That's one of the most important things you can do. And that includes the list hygiene. That's the best way to manage that reputation. And pro tips would be using automation and personalization so that your email campaigns perform the best that they can. If you have any questions, just reach out to me. My name's Hank Hoffmeyer. If you Google me, I'll show up on probably the first 2 pages of results. If you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, just mention that you were in this presentation today, and what I'll probably do is reply back asking to have a call with you, because I like to get to know everyone in my network. But if you just want to ask me a question on LinkedIn, that's fine. Twitter at Hank Hoffmeyer. You can reach out to me there. My website's hankhoffmeyer.com. Stop by, fill out my form, ask me a question. I would love to have a deeper conversation about this with you one-on-one. Let us know how we did today. Hopefully this session was helpful. That's what this was designed for. We put this content together to help you as an email marketer, and I hope you're enjoying the clicks. And let us know on Twitter at ComCorp and as well at Hank Hoffmeyer. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you get the segmentation right? Were you close? The percentage? We want to know. Hope you enjoy everything that's happening this year with clicks, and hopefully your email marketing campaigns are very successful this year and next year. I appreciate you being here.